women have walked the earth since the dawn of man. And for millennia, women have been the better half of the human race. In fact, not a single one of us would be sitting here today if it wasn't for a very special woman in our life. But from prehistoric man to today, there has never been a woman inducted into the American Association of Political Consultants Hall of Fame. Until now.
Is that girl? She's insolent and tree. She's everything that every girl should be. If you find a girl to love, only one girl to love, then she'll be that girl too. That girl.
I was in law school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at LSU in 1979. I applied for a position up at the Louis Lambert for Governor campaign the summer of 1979. The great Matt Reese was there. Ralph Murphine was the official campaign manager, and they hired me to type.
Matt Reese offered Nancy the position of administrative assistant in Washington, D.C., but Nancy wanted to do more.
I said, Matt, all that's great, but you know, my love of this whole thing is to be out there with the guys. And he says, nobody will ever take a girl serious.
In 1982, John Ashford hired Nancy to manage her first campaign for the big truck bill in the state of Missouri.
I was brought in to actually run the operation and run the field operations, and we'd get into these big meetings. We'd have 40 and 50 people. We had everybody that was involved in the campaign. I'm the official campaign manager, and Matt's classic line was, Nancy, will you get me some coffee?
Nancy made it clear to Ashford that she deserved more from her peers.
This is insulting. If he does it again and you do not say anything, I will walk. We got into one of those big meetings with 50 people right in the middle of my presentation trying to talk about strategy. Matt does his, hey Nancy, can I get a cup of coffee?
There was actually smoke coming out of Nancy's ears. The only time I've ever seen smoke coming out of anyone's ears. And to this day, I don't remember if she brought Matt the coffee or poured it over his head.
I fully intended to walk out, and it was a big turning point for me and certainly for all other women political consultants to make him understand that was not my purpose there.
Nancy made a promise to her husband that she would take off an entire year to raise their new baby Hayden. But later that year, Nancy received a call from a group in southern Mississippi who were searching for solutions to their struggling economy. They wanted Nancy to run an effective campaign to legalize gaming.
What was going on in Mississippi in the early 90s was just an abysmal experience. The average person was making less than $12,000 a year. It was just a really rough situation. I called everybody that I knew, Matt and Ralph and Wally Clinton, and said, please, I need some help here. Do you know somebody who can come down here and run the campaign? I have a newborn, I'm still breastfeeding him, this doesn't quite work for me. Every single person said, Nancy, we love you, but nobody can legalize the casinos in the heart of the Bible Belt. I couldn't find anybody else to do it, so after about a week, I announced to my husband, I said, I'm going to take Hayden, I'm going to take a crib, and I'm going to go down there and see if I can't use my God-given talents to try and help these people. One of the real low points was on a Sunday morning. I'm sitting in the campaign headquarters, which was this old converted gas station. I've got a little black and white television. I turn it on, and the 2nd Street Baptist Church in Gulfport, Mississippi is having a moment of prayer to pray for the poor soul and that poor baby whose mama in here is trying to ruin our entire fair city. And I determined then and there that there was no way I was ever going to lose that campaign. I have 3 children. It's very fair to say that my life was much easier before I had children. It would be very wrong and very inaccurate to say it was better.
Nancy's oldest son, Hayden, was the perfect picture of health. But in the spring of 2005, their good fortune changed.
He was diagnosed with leukemia, a very active, progressive stage of leukemia. Was forced into a situation of starting chemotherapy that night. The first time that they administered it, I was there, of course, and he said, Mom, I'm going to be sick. The chemotherapy came out from him and completely covered my hands. 3 cardiologists pulled me out into the hallway and told me to immediately seek a cardiologist assistant because it'll damage your heart. I said, you just poured a gallon of it into my son.
She began the search for more humane options for her son, but was met with great opposition.
I got sued within about 15 minutes by the doctor, by the CPS, which I've since learned is called Child Protective Services. I got sued because I was looking at some other alternatives. Hayden relapsed in July of 2005. The doctor came and pulled Don and I out into the hallway and said, you need to take him home to die. Hayden and I left that next day. I said, can you travel? He said, absolutely. We got on a plane, we went to Switzerland. We had a very humane doctor. We began to do some treatments, all experimental. Everyone had dropped the lawsuit, but his father wouldn't drop it. So we both returned. Hayden caught an infection and he died of a massive infection on November 21st, 2005. To lose a child to the racket that we call cancer treatment was somewhat akin to having handcuffs on my arms and my legs with cement blocks and being thrown into the water, all of which I could have stood, except they did it to my kid too. And I had to watch that.
Nancy was blessed in her second marriage with boy-girl twins Lincoln and Sierra. But while Nancy was fighting for Hayden's life, new challenges arose.
My daughter was diagnosed as one who would never speak, and in fact, up to 3 years of age, she could do nothing more than babble. And there was no one who thought that she would ever speak a word, and she is now completely recovered. Lincoln is the little boy who was born with what was called tetralogy of Fallot, which is a heart defect. By the time he was 5, Lincoln had had 7 surgeries, 4 of them open heart. I happened to learn about a doctor in London who was doing a very experimental surgery that's not allowed in the United States, and a year later it's absolutely perfect, and I don't think he'll ever face another surgery again. I am a very ferocious mother. I'm an absolutely ferocious mother. Someone asked me when I began to play poker, doesn't it scare you to go down there? And I said, after what I've been through in my life, you think a bunch of little old men and their chips are going to scare me? No way. I'd never seen Texas Hold'em until the World Poker Tour and the whole poker explosion started. It became a family affair to sit there and to watch the game. We played at the kitchen table, and one night Hayden said to me, you know what, Mom? We're going to be the first mother-son team to ever win the World Series of Poker. I said, you got it, buddy. You want it, we're going after it.
After Hayden's death in 2005, Nancy began to carry out the promise she had made to her son by entering her first poker tournament.
The very first time I played a $100 tournament, I was 14th. The second time I played, I was 11th out of 400 players. And the third time I sat down to play, I actually made the final table. Poker is a very natural extension of the other 2 P's that I do well. One is politics and one is parenting. At the poker table, you should pick your battles, as you should in parenting and as you should in politics, very, very carefully.
Nancy's success continued all the way to the championship table at the World Poker Tour, where she faced off with longtime professional Vanessa Selps.
Vanessa Selps was certainly expected to be the winner of that event, to the point that there was no credibility given to any other opponent at the table. She did come into the final table as the chip leader. It took me 3 solid hours to get that chip lead away from her and then to finally take her out.